Zoom meeting at the information listed in the agenda. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so for reasons of economic hardship and despite best efforts, we will post on the Westborough Public Library's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. And you should have all heard the announcement that the meeting is being recorded. I will also say that the agenda was edited on 11/21. That's like more than a week ago. To add an additional discussion item. Maureen, is that still pertinent?
I believe so.
Okay. Very good. You know what? This is I'm looking at the agenda. I'm looking at says it's dated November 22nd, which was last week.
Oh,
perhaps I opened the wrong one.
I think you did.
I would never do anything like that. But I'm going to go ahead and start. First off, I know we received 2 sets of minutes from Mary. Thank you, Mary. There is one set. Let me get them open so I get this right. Dated October 20th. Do we have any comments on that? It's titled Library LBC Draft Notes 10_20.
Move to accept.
Second, Emery.
I believe there was, let's see, Mark Abdullah's name was misspelled there, but I moved to accept with that correction. Okay, so we heard a motion to accept. Bob? And a second, sorry, so let's vote. Bob?
Yes.
Okay. Ed Baldwin, yes. Mary?
Johnston, yes.
Walter?
Leslie, yes.
Sean?
EO, yes.
Pete?
Dunbeck, yes.
Bill?
Lane, yes.
Lee?
Emery, yes.
Maureen?
Amy, yes.
And I believe that is everybody. Okay. So we have those approved. The other set of minutes is from last week. It's LBC meeting minutes draft 11/22. Any comments on those minutes? Can I have a motion to accept?
I move to accept, Emery.
Second.
Okay, let's vote for that one. Bob?
Yes. Petroselli, yes.
Ed Baldwin, yes. Mary?
Mary Johnston, yes.
Walter?
Leslie, yes.
Sean?
EO, yes.
Pete?
Dunbeck, yes.
Bill?
Lane, abstain. I was not there.
Lee?
Yes. Emery, yes.
And Maureen?
Amy, yes.
Okay, so we have, I think eight yes and 1 abstention, or maybe 9 and 1. Okay, that is all the minutes we have to review at this time. Of course, we're generating another set as we speak. So the next is public forum. I see several members of the public here, and I'd like to invite all of you to comment or give us any information or ask questions or whatever. Steve, anything from you?
Not today, thanks.
Thank you. Julia?
No, I'm actually just kind of here to get informed on what's going on.
Okay. Brittany, I don't recognize you. Are you a Westborough resident, also a member of our public?
I am. Yeah, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And did I miss any members of the public? I'm not seeing anyone. Okay, so next item then is, I believe, discussion of the special town meeting presentation. Actually, I guess we want to do the FAQs first.
So I sent out a revised version of the FAQs. I got some, I had some suggestions for things that were missing that I added just this afternoon. So I think it's pretty well ready. I can share it on the screen so you can see it. And then what I really wanted to talk about in regards to that is how you would like to distribute it? And I
Um,
mean, I'll take all the information and copy it over onto the library website, onto the FAQ page on the website, but is there some way further than that that you would like to have this information shared out?
Well, we're going to have it at the town meeting as a handout, right?
That
I
was,
believe that is the
my
plan.
understanding from quite a while ago.
I would suggest having some handouts available at the library, and possibly printing some up and leaving them at town hall if they would be interested in having that. Sean, was that something that the town hall would want to have?
They might not want to have it, but we have a right to have it there, I think.
Yeah, I think you could probably just drop them off with Sela.
Okay.
I can give them a heads up.
There's an information table right at the entranceway, which seems
Right.
pretty broad in regard to what information they'll distribute.
And I imagine there will be some interested people wandering by town on. So I can talk today if I concentrate. There probably will be interested residents coming by town hall between now and the town meeting. I'd like to make the information conveniently available to them.
We could also send it to building principals of the schools to push it out in the virtual backpack.
So that would be virtual rather than print.
Right.
Correct. It would be an email copy in the like newsletters that come out every
Mhm.
week.
Would that put the school in the position of supporting the library too much?
Nope. So anybody in town can submit something to be added to the virtual backpacks, and it goes in the community section beyond the schools. So flyers for things, notifications of other town meetings. It's just an informational flyer that can
Okay.
go in.
Maureen, maybe you know, but the town often sends out informational notices, and I assume the library is able to do that somehow through the town. Maybe by adding it to your website, can you have an email that points to that link like they do for, all the meeting notices and other
Yeah.
things?
We haven't done that way before, but I can ask Mark how to make that happen. There's a way through the town's website. Our website is separate from the town's. We're on
Okay.
our own domain, and we can probably send something out in our library newsletter, but we haven't done it the other way before, but it's worth asking.
There is at the homepage of the town website, there's a news section. And there's people that subscribe to get push notices whenever anything gets put on the news. And it's quite a large list, as I understand it. So you can get put on the, have it put in that page and then linked to some document, to the document someplace else.
Thank you.
So Mark Stockman manages that
Yep.
page, I believe. And that would then get pushed electronically to a bunch of people.
Right.
Two thoughts. One is, would it be worthwhile to put a notice about it on the sign up at the corner of Lyman and East Main?
Can't hurt.
Just telling them to come to the library. The second one is, seeing as how the library is an information distribution center, it might be that the opponents of this, of the library renovation would like to put some information out. And it seems to me that they might want to distribute information through the library because that's going to be an interested location. So I suggest that, Steve, I'm looking at you because I know I sort of think of you as one of the people who can speak for the opponents of the library. Do you think that the opponents would be interested in taking advantage of that?
Yes, please. We'd just like equal access to all these resources to post on.
You have equal access in that you can put a sign up any place you want. but you have to pay for it yourself, right?
So we could put flyers in the library. We could put a sign out front the library.
I don't see why not. It's a public place.
Okay, I thought it was not allowed.
Well, you're not supposed to put signs that are unattended in certain places on town property, like the Rotary. The signs have to be attended. So you can't like sort of stick it in the ground on public property, but somebody could hold it there and you could have flyers, I think. I don't think there's anything that would prohibit that.
I offhand don't see a problem with putting flyers out at the library or presumably town hall or whatever. It's certainly a group of interested citizens.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
Okay. Any other thoughts about distributing the FAQ?
Sounds pretty good.
Okay. Great. So the next thing then is the actual content of the FAQ. I had a couple of comments on the version I saw, and Maureen, you may have actually updated those already. Would you put your thing up and we can just quickly walk through it?
Mhm.
Okay, so first topic here is why do we need a new library? Does anyone have any thoughts or comments on this?
I didn't have enough time to really go over this in great detail, but I think that part looks pretty good.
I don't think we did, and I think we have in fact been going over it for quite
Yeah.
a while. So
Yeah, but the latest version, yeah.
I think this is just mostly. Well, that's a nice flower. I'm not sure what
Oh,
happened there.
sorry. I dragged it over onto the other screen. There we go. Can you see it now?
Okay. Yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. How about why are we having another town meeting?
I think that we should rewrite that a little bit, and I'd be glad to help on it. I don't think there should be anything negative in there, like using the word sour grapes and another bite of the apple. I think it needs to be sort of reversed a little bit and rewritten in a more positive, proactive way. I don't know if we want to do that online together. I'd be happy to work on it with Maureen if anybody else has the same concerns.
I do have the same concerns. I think if you just strike that first part and just say, this is an action taken by residents, and just cut out the in-between part.
And I think to say how many, the fact that they covered 2,200 signatures, which were needed, it was up to, I think, 540 or 550 residents. And I think that's an important number. I think that might be more than the people who were actually attending the town meeting.
Can I just, this is Julia. When the petition is mentioned, I like to actually call it the citizens petition, because that's really what it is. And it emphasizes that it came from the residents or the citizens, as Mary said.
Oh, we do have over 500. That's good. Okay.
I think the exact number would be good. Instead of saying whatever it is, 550, 540.
Well, from my accounts, I got 575.
Wow.
Oh, great.
So just to check, the town clerk only confirmed 200 of those because that's what's required to get it onto the town meeting. So you may want to say of which 200 or more than 200 or something have been confirmed.
Good point.
As valid.
I think they stopped after confirming 200.
I think it's fine just saying too many numbers will be overwhelming. It says the petition had 575. That's a statement of fact. Confirmation numbers, just because they stop at 200 doesn't.
I think you're right, Pete. Yeah.
Steve, you got your hand up?
If we're going to put a FAQ in there, then could we say, since we submitted over 200 signatures to the Board of Selectmen, that an opposition petition was submitted to the Board of Selectmen with over 200 signatures?
I'm not sure that's something that we have to take responsibility for reporting, and it wasn't anything that the Board of Selectmen could take action on. So I'm not in favor of doing that.
I'm not either.
Okay.
I'm not either.
So this is just a fact that's that's just going to be one-sided. Is that it?
It's a fact sheet from the Westborough Public Library and the Building Committee. If you want to make a fact
Okay.
sheet, Steve, you can make
Yeah.
a fact sheet.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
In regard to the question we're discussing here, I think it's important to say that the fact we're back for another town meeting is an artifact of the form of town government we have chosen, in that we are not doing something that's exceptional or not contemplated by the structure. So we don't want to have all those words, but I just would say that this is the nature of our town government. And if you don't think that we should be doing revotes, we should have a charter committee and look at a different form of town government. It's not sour grapes and another bite at the apple. It's the form of town government we have, and that's the way we work.
It's demonstrating our democracy.
Yeah. And if someone was not comfortable or it's setting bad precedent, then change the bylaw then. Don't take it out on the fact that this
It's
is
not a bylaw, it's
state law.
state law
Yeah.
State law.
Yeah,
for
we'd have
this
to
type
change-
of government.
Mhm.
We'd have to change the form of our government.
Hmm.
Because the state has defined it this way. And it's.
Or get the state to change the law.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Pete. And the last time we had a charter review was maybe 6 years ago. We had a charter review and we didn't vote to change the form of town government. We changed the structure of a town manager and the relationship of the town manager and their responsibilities to the Board of Selectmen. But they rejected changing the form of town government. And that was, I think, at least a year-long process. It doesn't need to go into here, but it's important for us to remember that in case anybody brings it up at town meeting.
One other thing I just want to add too is that the articles are word for word the same on this for the upcoming special town meeting as they were. So there's no change in the article that people are voting on from the one in October.
Good point.
I just wanted to address that last comment about 6 years ago, they decided to stick with the same one. I met with the town manager this morning and she said that group was actually disbanded before making an actual decision one way or the other, because they were posting for a new town manager and they didn't want that sort of up in the air as they were hiring. So I think I heard that said at the select board meeting as well. But the town manager said that that's actually not true. They just never made a decision.
That's a good point, Brittany.
Yeah, when Jim Malloy left, it was they needed to hire a new town manager, and having that open meant you might not have a job.
Right.
So it's not the best way to attract new candidates.
Yeah.
So it got put aside.
A good reminder, but still, we did have a charter review committee that was active for about a year, even though they didn't come to a conclusion.
So it still doesn't say the point that I think is important, that as required by state law for the type of town government that Westborough has chosen. I think it's like just a fact. We have chosen this type of town government, and as required by state law for the form of town government we have chosen.
That's a good point, Pete. Do you want to help Maureen revise that a little bit after, so we don't have to do it online together?
I
You
sent her some comments, but if we're going to wordsmith it, I can throw in my wordsmithing.
Yeah.
But
I've done this kind of thing a lot in other contexts, and it's good to do the wordsmithing where people can see it if you want to wind up with a final document at the end.
Okay.
So next, renovation and expansion costs. I just wanted to check, is that 36 million number the updated with what we think the cost is going to be?
No, that's the updated cost estimate from September.
Okay. Should we put in the cost estimate that we talked about last week?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't remember what that number was, but
I'll highlight it and I'll
yeah.
add it in.
Okay.
It may be useful to say our cost estimate was and has now been decreased too.
Good.
Yeah.
And a comment I'd made to Maureen in an email, the tax burden analysis was done using different numbers because it was back in September.
Mhm.
So I think it's important that those numbers tie, and they don't in the draft that was sent out.
Yeah,
They're
I had
different.
a comment on that as well. So. Okay. So, which means we need to update the next section as well, with whatever the.
And the 28 million that was in the previous.
Okay, yeah. And that next topic on the basis, the 28 million is going to need to change. And I believe the finance director is now recommending an interest rate of 4.5% for this estimate.
And so the letter that's at the link page should be an updated analysis using the 4.5 and the new aggregate municipal expense.
I also would like to add a statement of what the total estimated interest cost is going to be to that. Or in there somewhere. It's not part of the actual cost, but it is a real number.
Did you want that in this section here under the basis for the tax impact?
I think that's where I put my note to myself, but I think it might be
Section before?
yeah. You could argue that a couple of ways, but
the sentence before the link, you could add a sentence before the link that says, including the, you can wordsmith this, but the cumulative interest payments over time, the total payments for the town will be XXX.
yeah.
And then it ties to the, you're talking about interest payments and stuff, so
Yeah.
it kind of fits in there.
Yeah, that works for me.
I have a comment on the average single-family household cost. I was watching the Board of Selectmen's meeting about the tax classification the other night, and a couple people got up opposed to increasing the ratio for commercial businesses, saying that the savings for the average household member would be $257 a year or something like that. And the person who presented it and a couple other people seemed to agree with that, is it didn't seem like a significant enough savings because it was only, less than $2 a week or something. And what difference does that make? Well, I think if we put that same kind of logic to this, at a $332 increase for 1 year is about $638 a week. And when it goes down to $250, it is $4.80 a week to have a whole new library. I think putting it in that sort of immediate terms about what it's going to cost you, per week or per month is a good way to look at it, to just add that in there. Because it's really not that much that we're asking for taxpayers when you really look at what we spend all of our money on.
Lee, I agree with you from my personal perspective, but I really hate to put financial decisions in the mouths of other taxpayers in town, and we don't really know their financial situations.
No, I'm not saying that they should, that they should accept that. It's just that this is what it would come out as a weekly cost to you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we do have, it's clear that that 332 is for the first year. Okay, so that's good.
Right, only, yeah.
Any other estimates on these, any other comments on these costing things?
Oh, one thing that I wanted to add was that there was a question that came up that I saw on Facebook, something about how much are my taxes going to go up next year, and that the first year of the borrow would not happen until, I don't know if I worked that into this
No.
or not, but it wouldn't happen till probably fiscal 25 or 26. Do you remember, Walter?
26 or 27, probably,
Okay.
actually.
I think that's very important to have in there because we were talking about people worrying about their Christmas spending.
Right.
And, you know, people thinking of the immediacy of this impact. And it's not an immediate impact. It is delayed, actually, even though it's an impact, not to be diminished, but it doesn't start right away.
And you could put that right where it says the first year of borrowing, parenthesis, FY27 or whatever.
Yeah, she estimated it to be fiscal 26 or 27, so I think it's fair to use those dates.
Up just before the yellow section. Okay. It says the first year of borrowing.
Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Do you think FY 2026 might be confusing to some people instead
Let me
of just
spell that out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is a little bit of town government-ese.
Yeah.
right.
So let's see.
It's
Yeah, so
likely to happen in 20.
So we're in fiscal 23 right now, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the design, we're assuming everything goes forward, the design will be getting completed sometime in fiscal 24. Construction will start in fiscal 25.
We wouldn't do the permanent borrow until probably a year later.
Okay.
So it's probably fiscal 26. It's probably a fair. And it all depends on the timing of when, you know, because July 1st is the new fiscal date. So if you ended up doing that borrowing on August 1st, it's another fiscal year. But
yeah. Okay. Any comments on the will the cost go up further section?
When we say as the delivery method, I'm not sure if that's clear what we mean by we're using them as the delivery method. We're using them as the management method of it.
No, construction delivery method is the appropriate. You could add the word construction before delivery.
Okay.
If you ever start doing construction delivery by Amazon or FedEx, I'll be really impressed.
With CMR, construction manager was hired with a cost plus fixed fee contract with a guaranteed maximum price that will have to be lower than the budget being approved at town meeting.
Well, it must be instead of will have to be. Must be.
That must be lower than the
budget we are approving at town meeting.
I would say we don't know that we're approving it until the budget set at town meeting.
Yeah, requesting.
Yeah, that works.
That's good.
Sean has his hand up, but I have a comment also.
Oh, so Sean, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, so we're reducing the price of the project by $1.5 million. I think we need to provide a little bit of detail on what changes we made that led to that $1.5 million decrease. You know, otherwise we're just going to hear about this is a moving target we're shooting at. So I don't know. I mean, maybe just a sentence like, we looked at materials and, you know, we're making these 2 changes based on current pricing, and that's what's going to do it for us. But I think just dropping the price without a, I mean, I know we're saying supply chain and stuff, but
no, but there's
know if we-
specific design changes that we're getting that from. Yeah, I agree. That's a good point to put in.
Yeah, I think it can largely, you can easily, to Sean's point, I think you could say that the, you know, the project team looked at the design and made a number of changes to the facade and exterior components.
Good, very specific.
I see a question here on the chat from Mr. I think that's Mr. Buglieri.
Yeah, Steve's not wrong on that.
Okay.
We do have to, we need to say that a little bit better.
Okay. Do we want to work through that now, John? Or John, can you correct that offline?
Yeah, just while you keep going, I don't want to jump in. Let me look at that separately on my copy, and I'll come back to you in a few minutes.
It's the narrow 1-0 win.
Hey, you've got your hand up?
Saturday, coverage starts 9 a.m. Eastern.
We're hearing somebody's radio or something, by the way.
We're hearing somebody's World Cup coverage. USA won 1-0.
Wow.
Woohoo. Pete, go ahead.
Yes, I have to get, I was checking the World Cup score as I heard the radio. I wanted to confirm what I was hearing. Sorry, in the paragraph we're looking at, it says extensive testing of historic buildings, soil testing and other things. What exactly would happen if you know, there was structural problems with the old antique building, or there's soil analysis says there's foundation risks and stuff that aren't contemplated in the current cost, and those problems exceed the owner's contingency that we've budgeted? What really is going to happen? Do we then, let's say it comes up $5 million of hidden costs that we didn't understand because we have yet to do that extensive testing. What happens if there's $5 million of hidden costs?
I think for the Forbes building, we had to go back to town meeting, I think, to get some increases approved. Do you remember, Sean? Or
Yeah,
Walter?
that sounds right.
I believe there was something like that on the new fire station also. They found hazardous materials in the subsoil.
So this sentence, I think, needs to be swizzled a bit, because it's not a clear, will the cost go up further? No, it will not. It's like there's going to be this work done. If these identify costs that are not within the contemplated, you know, I don't have the words, but contemplated contingency, no further, you know, the construction will not begin until all the costs are understood, and the construction management company agrees that they'll meet the budget, or whatever the correct words are.
I see that LPA has their hand up. Y'all want to comment?
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, I just wanted to point out that, you know, there's not only a construction contingency, you know, there's the owner's contingency, there's a design contingency that is meant to cover costs like that. If there's some unknown hazmat, for instance, or if, you know, there were some bad areas of the roof that needed to be completely replaced in total. You know, there's other pots of money. There's allowances that can be established within the guaranteed maximum price that can cover those sorts of things. That said, you know, there is the possibility, we don't have a crystal ball, and there is the possibility that costs could go crazy again, and there would be that need to go back and get more money. But that's I think this CM at risk approach is your best bet to really control costs, which we've talked about all along, and we've worked our best to try and identify those things. This further testing that's done, that's so that we can really get a handle on what those costs might be. Is there arsenic in the soil that needs to be, do we need to dispose of that specially? Are there things with the windows or the slate roofing that need to be done? That's why we're going to do this testing and identify those. At this point, schematic design, we still don't have an exact handle on things, and that's why we have those other contingencies.
So would you suggest something to go in there, John? I think we've covered it pretty well, saying there'll be extensive testing before it begins.
I just,
Yeah, I mean,
from what I'm hearing, I think maybe no, it will not. It's a little maybe too strong.
Yeah,
maybe.
folks, this
No.
is sorry. This
Go
is
ahead,
Mark
sorry.
Abdella from Fontaine. I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I'm in transit, so I don't have my camera on. I'm in the car. But my suggestion would be that we rephrase the question to say, what measures are in place to control cost?
You did that before. That's good, Frank.
And then let's just delete the no, it will not. And I think the rest of it speaks for itself.
That's good.
What measures are in place to control cost? Delete that. We're using the CM at risk process. The rest of it describes the due diligence that comes with the process to control costs. And I don't think there's any need to say, the world could turn upside down and we'll deal with it. Like, that's kind of implied with everything these days. But I think it repositions the question in a more positive light.
I'm good.
Sorry to be in
like
transit, but those were my 2 cents.
That's an excellent point, Mark.
Yeah. Like
Also,
that.
that second sentence, guys, you can remove the fixed fee part. It is, the CM has been hired with a cost plus contract with a guaranteed maximum price. Basically, they're getting
right.
paid for their costs, plus a fee, a fee percentage based on the numbers we gave them, and whatever those final costs are, they make that fee on top of it.
Right.
But they put a GMP kind of cap on that whole thing.
Perfect. Good catch, John. Thanks.
Yes. And is it important to say why the CM was hired early? I mean, we just are saying it, but they were hired early so that they can help us this way. Something just to finish that sentence.
Hired early in the process so that the firm that would be building the project would have significant input into the design and budgeting process.
Good. Excellent.
And does it make sense to elaborate on the fact that it says here that the guaranteed maximum price must be lower than the budget we're requesting at special town meeting. The budget we're requesting is the total project budget for the cost. The GMP is just a part of that, but there's other things beyond that.
Yeah, no, I know we're getting to be this thing's going to be 8 pages long, but I understand.
Right.
At the end of the day, guaranteed maximum price must be lower than the construction budget.
Yeah.
Included in the overall ask or the overall request at special town meeting. Construction budget that is included in the overall request. There you go.
I just had a couple of words, but I'm not sure if this is overkill or not. I know over the past 20 years, when we've been talking about CM at risk, we always use the phrase cost plus, not to exceed. I'm not sure if that's redundant or not to exceed. Does it give us another measure of comfort to the taxpayer?
Cost plus contract not to exceed a guaranteed maximum price.
Or cost plus not to exceed, but I'll leave that up to LPA and Vertex to see if that's just unnecessary to put in. at this point.
I think it sounds good. Bob.
I'd say cost plus contract not to exceed the guaranteed maximum price.
I don't
Cost
think that's
plus-
accurate.
No, okay, that's fine.
Is that accurate, John?
Cost plus contract.
Ed
with
was
a not-
suggesting a cost plus contract not to exceed the guaranteed maximum price.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's fine.
Good.
Yeah, I like that better than with a guaranteed, not to exceed.
I mean, obviously to Eric's point, we're doing everything we can, as much as we can with the information that we have. Okay, I think Mark's point is a very good one. Could you be hit with a left hook out of the, from unexpected? Yes, you always could. There could always be something unexpected. You know what I mean? So that nobody reasonable could have expected. So, I mean, we're doing the best we can with the information we had, with the money we had. Suddenly, well, why didn't you check? We didn't have the money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't have the money to spend another 300,000 before we do this process. So
Yeah.
you build in contingencies, and then if we find anything, we'll have to react to it. And obviously the preference is to react to it as much as we can within the framework of the budget that's being requested. We don't want to have to go back to town meeting. You know what I mean? But that's, cards on the table here. There's no guarantees here, but you use the information you have to the best you can, putting contingencies in place that if we don't have to spend, great. But if we do find something unexpected, an oil tank or something along those lines, yeah, you have money in the budget to be able to cover those things.
Like in the Forbes building.
I mean, occasionally you end up with a problem, a school problem or a problem like they had on the school in Newton North, where there was an entire section of hazardous materials that nobody knew about buried well underneath the school. And that was crazy dollars and whatever. And everyone likes to point to something like that, but that is that was a bit of an outlier. I haven't seen that happen on another school project since then. Again, we're trying to do the best we can with the information we have, with the money that we had. And that's an important, I think that's an important piece you can't lose sight on.
Okay, let's go on to the next topic, which is hearing that the cost is just an estimate. Any thoughts about that?
So I think the better way to address this is that the budget that's in, and let me say it before you type it, the budget that we're including is based on a program that drove a square footage, that drove a price. And the process that's being used here with this library project is the exact same process that was used at the Fail School project, when you had the same thing, a program, a square footage and a price. Same thing at the Gibbons, a program, a square footage and a price. So this is not an atypical approach to the project. The only way you can come to the town meeting with a construction price is you have to fund the entire design beforehand, so that we can weed out all of the details and actually put the project out to bid. So you have one approach or the other,
So we have the last sentence in this covers a lot of what you said, but
maybe the next item.
I don't think we need to say detailed cost estimates are expensive. I don't know if that's
they
yeah, are, but
I put that in because that's my short, quick, my 2-word answer. But I'll say there's 6 words or whatever it was. But
to develop a bid package or architecture, all the construction design, which would take approximately a year and cost at least, I think it's more than that. It's probably I think it's over $1 million, frankly, to get us to that point. Is that, Eric, I don't have the budget open. Is that a fair assessment to get to bidding would be 1 million?
You don't say over.
Yeah, it would, when you factor in all the costs, you know, you're gonna be paying.
All the sub consultants, everything else.
Also, the OPM and the CM for pre-construction services, so yes, it would, I think.
So approved, all of Westborough's capital projects for the last decades have been considered, discussed, and approved based on cost estimates, exactly like one we have presented here. Most recently, the Gibbons Middle School and the Fales Elementary School projects. I can't speak to the process that was done at Town Hall or the Forbes building. But I know I can speak to these, both state-funded projects from a different entity. That's the only way you do a project with the state for a school, is agreeing to it at this phase and then living with your numbers for the remainder of design and construction.
And instead of cost over $1 million, cost approximately $1 million?
I would leave over.
Leave over, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And again, we haven't moved on. We don't, Eric doesn't have a contract amendment for this yet. There's, it's cart before the horse,
Do you think we should leave the question in bold the same way or rephrase the question? I mean, I've heard.
I put it that way because that's my paraphrase of how people ask the question in town meeting. Okay. But I don't object to changing it. It just that was my starting point.
It just the I have heard thing is like rumors, they go around. So
that's the basis of a lot of these objections.
So maybe this cost is just an estimate.
How about to make it a question, say, isn't this cost just an estimate?
That works.
Okay.
Did you want to get rid of the right after that? Why didn't the library get a? It sounds like we just.
Well, they wouldn't get, and we wouldn't get a final cost by putting it out to bid, and that's not how you get a final cost.
Okay.
So it's kind of a funny question.
Yeah,
no, I mean, I think you're splitting hairs at that point. I mean, the way I take that question is not final. You're never going to have a final until you're done. But the reality is to me, the most detailed estimate, the most detailed cost I can give you for a total project budget is a bid number. Obviously, everything else isn't spent yet. You still have contingencies and all that. But to me, that is a more complete total project budget than what we're doing here. But you have to do this way because it's what the grant dictates.
Why don't we just do a detailed cost estimate or a more detailed cost estimate?
Why didn't yeah, sure. And I think what you can do, if you change the question to this, after that last sentence, you can say there will be 2 additional detailed cost estimates completed after both the design development phase of the project, as well as 60% of the way through construction documents.
I would just say there will be, there's actually going to be 2 increasingly detailed estimates at key points in the design process or something like that.
Yeah, right. Then you don't have to explain. Yeah, right. At key points in the design process to confirm that the budget remains on track.
And what happens if it's not confirmed?
We value engineer it. We change it. We take stuff out.
I'd make sure that value engineering, the rest of that statement's important. For people that are reading it with a skeptical eye, the immediate thing is, what if you don't get confirmation?
No, that's a great point, Pete.
just minor value engineering would be conducted as opposed to be done.
Yep.
Okay. I'm concerned that we're getting into the weeds and taking a long time here.
I think we have to, though.
Okay. Just hey, Julie, can you turn on the lights? It's getting dark in here. Okay. Let's see. Why wasn't the architect given a budget to design to? This is sort of a related question. And then why didn't the library do a more complete cost estimate for base repair?
Oh, wait a minute, you skipped.
I skipped. There's two things. I've hit two different topics at once.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we need that first one? Why wasn't the architect given a budget to design to? Because you've already really addressed that.
I included
I
that
like-
because it was asked a couple of times in different ways at town meeting.
I don't have a whole lot of objection to answering very similar questions in ways. It's
Okay.
Yeah. On the next one, the base repair estimate, I don't think 500,000 is right. I don't think we spent 500,000 to get to this point for the renovation. It wouldn't cost more than that to get to this point in the base repair.
I just threw a number in because I needed a number.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, you know, the basis of the charge of the committee to the architect was not to do.
John,
was
this is here. We're actually assuming here that we would have to go back to the architect and say, here's what we want to design, or here's what we want. We'd start the design process over again and need to pay them to get the schematic design for the base repair. And so I'm saying arbitrarily that that is, I want to get them to the same point in the design process that we are now for the renovation. And I think, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I think at this point we've paid the architect and Vertex and Fontaine a total of approximately 200,000 to get to this point. And that number, I'm not going to swear by that number.
It's about 250.
Okay. Then, and so it seems reasonable to me to say, well, it would take about as much to get to this point for a base repair as it did to get to this point for the renovation.
But I think we've talked about this before. What's more relevant is the library building committee wasn't charged with doing a cost estimate for base repair. We were told by the town meeting to go ahead with working on designing a reconstruction of the library, not a base repair.
Okay.
So, do you remember talking about it that way?
We have had that discussion.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean people won't ask.
Mm-hmm.
So Maureen, let's change that 500 to 250 then.
What about the additional reinforcement that the base repair does not meet the program that's desired? What the LBC is looking for in this project.
No, we've made that like.
LPA, is that discussion for us?
Well, yeah, I think we're just wondering if maybe there's a comment. Part of that answer includes the fact that a base repair option doesn't meet your program needs, doesn't increase the number of bathrooms, it doesn't give you the teen space that you don't have.
And
all of those
I'm in a
things.
meeting, Mary.
Okay.
I'd suggest some grammatical restructuring. Just the question is about why didn't the library do the cost estimate? I'd say obtaining a cost estimate for the base repair and equivalent quality was out, and then switch to was outside the scope of the architect hired in the LB Library Building Committee to do so. Put a period and then say this estimate would cost blah blah.
Yeah.
So just post it right after quality. Yeah.
I just a slight tweak, I would say the development of this scope and estimate, because it's not that the estimate is 250,000. It's that the scope needs to be developed. You know, all the work that got us to today was a lot more than just, hey, give us a price. You know, the price piece is the cheap part, actually, in the grand scheme of things. They're not inexpensive. It'd be about $15,000, but the issue is how much work you have to go through to get to a point where you can give it to Fontaine, or you can give it back to LPA and say, go to your estimator. So it's, you know, and we can obviously speak to that if there's more discussion about that.
I'd put a period after the 250,000 and just make base repair does not meet as a separate sentence.
Good.
I just have a comment. I'm looking again at the bolded part that starts with outside the scope. It just doesn't make sense. Outside the scope of the work the architect was hired. Should say outside the scope of the work the architect was hired to perform.
Yeah, hired to perform, and outside the and we could say beyond the library building committee's charge.
Or beyond the charge of the library building committee, period.
Yep. Good. Doing a good job typing there.
Yeah.
I know when I type in this situation, there's more typos than you can count.
Right. She's good.
Okay.
Okay, good on that. So what happens if the renovation expansion doesn't pass?
I had made a suggestion to stick in a third new bullet and have 4 bullets, because originally, you know, we have declined the $9.4 million grant, which would then go funding another municipality's project. Immediately went into that we have to start the process all over again. I thought starting the process all over again was a powerful enough reason as well to stick that in as a third and bullet.
I think it should be the first bullet.
Yeah, now I'm looking at that now.
I would say that I'd put the grant first.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at that. We'd have to start the process all over again. Maybe those two, maybe it is 3 bullets again, and maybe we can kind of combine those again. But
I think there's maybe 2 parts. If the project is defeated, we would have to decline the grant.
Forced to, or the committee would be forced to, or something to that effect. Yeah, that decline, which is power. Yeah.
Okay.
And then start the process all over again.
All over and bold it, just like we did, like to mimic the decline, the $9.4 million grant.
And then we could then.
That's good.
Yes. Right there. Yep.
Yeah, that flows a lot better.
Yes. Yep.
Just quickly, so the way that I was reading the last question and then this one is either like you don't have an estimate of what the repairs will cost, or you do. And in the last one, it sounds like, well, that wasn't our job. We didn't really need to go do that. And then in this one, it's like, but we would instead have to spend $19 million, which sounds rather specific.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just sounding like those are saying 2 different things.
Ooh, good point.
Yeah. It wasn't our specific charge, but we, as part of our responsibility, we also did a cost estimate.
So I think the thing that we might do is on the prior question, okay, instead of saying,
wasn't our charge.
Yeah, no, saying that is fine. However, the design team and the OPM did look at, a rough order of magnitude estimate. Order of magnitude estimate, utilizing cost data from a prior library project and escalated those costs to the current day, resulting in an estimated repair project of $19 million.
Good.
That way we're putting it out there. Where did you get it? You know, and where we got it was, you know, back in 2016, when the grant was being put together, you know, LPA had the Shrewsbury Library data, a very similar project, you know, renovation, addition, old building, new addition kind of thing. And they took numbers, and they took those numbers and they applied them and escalated them forward. And then when we got involved, we escalated them forward some more, or we escalated them forward to kind of equate with Fontaine's number, which was escalated to the midpoint of, you know, looked at what roughly a number to the midpoint of construction in 2024. So we kind of made those things equal, you know. And if somebody says, well, what is that based on? It was based on a square foot number. It was based on all of the soft costs on top of that, and it added in some other needs that are in this total project budget of, well, we're going to have to replace the furniture. Maybe it's not all new, so we'll take half of it. Well, we need IT work. Well, you know, so it's using components of the estimate and budget we do have, and kind of trying to come up with a total project budget, you know, to give you an apples to apples comparison of what the renovation was. So it's a great point that was just brought up. You know, we say we don't have it, and we don't because we didn't study it. But we did give you a number. We gave you something to compare it to. It's just, you know, if we're at 25% of design for that number is at like 1%, but it's a good 1%. It's grounded in something. It's grounded in the cost for a library in a town nearby years ago, and escalated that forward. So
let's take those two last sentences and make them the first part of the answer. So we can say the design team and OPM created a rough order and so on.
Yes. And add 2016 in there.
Well, I don't know if you need to say 2016,
Yeah,
Lee,
we don't need to.
because there was data, there was things that were done as part of the grant application to show that it had been looked at.
Okay.
And then when you guys were brought, you know, told you were coming back on board, that number was resurrected a little because people had questions. And then when we were brought on board, we escalated that further. So it's kind of lived in a few different years. But I mean, if anybody has questions beyond this answer, we could certainly talk about it. But the idea is, we wanted to give you something, but it's nowhere near to the level of the other, because we weren't charged to do that, nor was the building committee. But everyone, we can understand why you care about this, you know. So that's where we got it.
So let's one other thing is obtaining a more complete cost estimate. Go ahead, Pete. Oh, and I see Bill has his hand up also.
I would put the modifier in obtaining I lost track of where it is now, but when you're referring to the 19 million, the estimated repair project, I would say always refer to it as a ballpark estimate. I think ballpark provides the squishy feel that differentiates it from the other estimates that are being discussed on the proposal, which are more detailed. And using the same term twice to mean slightly different things requires a lot of sentences. The ballpark, I think, is.
So the result was a ballpark estimate for the base repair of 19 million.
Yes, that's my suggestion.
I was just going to make one comment. That was excellent, Pete. On the very first sentence, when I know Steve was talking about a rough order of magnitude, these are lay people that don't know construction terms. I'm wondering if their eyes are just going to roll back in their heads. Just the OPM did recreate and take out rough order of magnitude. Do we need to put that complex term in there? Just
We
did
could put
create,
bo-
no, we say an
Yeah.
estimate. Now, we just talked about a
Right.
ballpark estimate, like a sentence down. So is that estimate the right term to use? The design team of the OPM did create a,
Ballpark estimate.
I would
Yeah.
say a ballpark
that's-
estimate of 19 million using
so we
cost.
combine that, do we combine that with the sentence that just Pete talked about, the ballpark right below it?
Yeah.
Okay, we can combine those two sentences kind of. An estimate of 19 million using,
Yes.
yeah, then we don't need that. The result was, we don't need that sentence.
Yeah. So now obtaining a more complete cost estimate.
Now, is that kind of awkward now to put, now that was beyond our scope? I mean, that seems kind of a little bit negative there, but do we still keep that in or put it somewhere else?
No, I think that's the right place to
Yeah.
keep that.
Okay.
I think it reads well now.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back down to the what happens if it doesn't pass section.
Like the first two development.
I like the restructuring of the bullets. I would like to recommend that we consider changing how we're referring to our project to say renovation and expansion project, and try to be consistent in the way it's phrased.
Right.
Yeah.
In the question, and every time it's referenced, just be consistent.
We can just, Maureen, can you just later on do a global for renovation and
Yeah.
change it to renovation expansion when needed?
Yep.
Okay.
And make them adjectives and say project or proposal depending on context.
You know, it's funny, I know we can't put this in print, but I'll bet you that if there ever was defeated and we had to go back and look at the plan to spend the 19 million Band-Aid, and it's going to take 23, 24 separate bids, a whole new package. We don't even know if it's going to go CM at risk since it's separate packages. It's going to be more than 19, you know, and by the time it all gets done, you know, it's just, that's my opinion. I don't think we can put it in writing, but you know what? It's almost like an editorial comment at the end. If it doesn't go through, you're probably going to be spending almost as much for the Band-Aid.
I think that needs to be in there. We've talked about that a lot, Bob. So either at least 19 million or that 19 million would escalate.
Yeah.
For many
It will.
reasons.
I mean,
We think it's going to be like 24.
Listen,
Probably.
guys, I think
Bid project is going to be a series of several separate bids of HVAC.
I would say develop a plan to develop a plan for the base repair, period. We've estimated this would cost I would say approximately 19 million. People already don't believe 19, and saying it's going to be more is not going to help that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, if you want to make a comment that waiting costs always go up. I think, I do think you know, I agree with you, Ed. You shouldn't, the number, if someone wants to ask where the number came from, we can tell you where the number came from. We can show you what we did in the years, you know, we escalated. At the end of the day, could somebody disagree with it? Of course they could. Of course they could. You know, and that's okay. I mean, I think we've reviewed it. You know, Eric, you know, Eric and I looked at it. I think it's based in sound logic. And at the end of the day, you agree or you don't. I mean, we're not here to debate. We're not here to debate this number. Okay. And at the end of the day, you know, I do think, could it always cost more? Sure. Is there a solution out there that could cost less? Well, yeah, but it's not going to be the one that kind of gets you everything done. So somebody can come up and you know, pick the roof. Well, the roof won't cost no, it won't. Okay, but we're trying to look at a comprehensive set of everything you need. We could what if this thing to death, but I also do agree with Ed that, you know, Could it cost more? Yeah, but saying that does nothing but make the people who don't believe it more upset. Like, stay away from scare tactics. Someone asked a question about what would a renovation cost. We had discussions about tech and furniture and design costs and temporary space. You add all those things up, we feel comfortable getting to a $19 million number. It's, what exactly is in that? Well, again, not the charge of the committee, but at least we know roughly that it's not a $3 million job. It's not a $5 million job. And that's, I hope we don't, if people, at a certain point, we can ask the questions we have, but we didn't do a deep dive for all the reasons that have been said. But I'm confident on where that number came from and the data that was used to start it and the escalation that was used to get us kind of to where we are to get that number.
That's why I said it was an editorial comment, like an aside on my part. I didn't want it in there, but it's like, we all know what's going to happen, but I don't think you can put it in here.
Yeah.
Bill, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, just summarizing what John previously said and what he just said. Somewhere in there, we got to say the team used good construction practices and get rid of all the detailed words that people aren't going to understand. And he can support that.
Where would you do that, Bill?
Up where we first talked about making an estimate.
That's right.
Let's see, it's going to be and then how much will the renovation and expansion cost? It's like the third or fourth item in the whole thing. There you go.
One idea on to help, I think, in the flow is to move the sections where why can't we just repair, renovate, and why is repair, renovate so expensive? Move them in front of the question we're dealing with that is discussing getting the no vote. It allows you to establish what is the scope of the repair, renovate project and address some of these things. And then when you're answering the next question, you can kind of leverage that. What happens if? Put the repair, renovate discussion in front of that.
Which repair renovate discussion are you talking about?
Keep going down.
Under design?
Yep. It may screw up some other things, but just where it says, why can't we just repair? Isn't that cheaper? And then the next question is about repair. And if those were answered before you got into the stuff we were just discussing, I think it might flow better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So right before that question.
Maybe we should have a whole topic for just base repair of doing a base. Why not a base repair?
Good.
Then we
good
can put a lot of information there.
I got another proposal on the repair is to give it a name. We've talked about it. So it's deferred. So I'd propose we call it Deferred Repairs and Code Compliance Project, and avoid using the word renovate for it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm going to make a proposal here because I think we're getting to we're in the weeds. We're running out of time, and we do want to get this out. If we had a totally perfect FAQ and we get it out the day after town meeting, that doesn't help anybody.
Right.
So I don't want to get it into. My dad used to tell me the best is the enemy of the good, and I don't want to get into that situation. So let's. What I'm going to propose, let's go quickly through any other really specific comments, ask Maureen to revise according to what she's heard, and then put together subcommittee of people to do a final review
Good.
and approve.
If we have a subcommittee, we have to post a meeting.
Right, and post that for as soon as we can manage it, but
That would be 48 hours from 9 o'clock tomorrow.
so that would be Friday or
Chris?
possibly next Monday.
Maureen, if you have less than a quorum of this
Right.
committee, you should be able to meet.
Exactly. Let's do it that way.
So 2 or 3 people can meet.
Yep.
We have 9.
And I think one of the most important is John.
John Lemieux is not actually a member of the committee, so
Exactly.
he won't count for that
Yeah.
that calculation.
And I think Pete has a very good handle on
Yeah.
how.
Well, if we think that's a good idea, we can
progressions.
form the committee, but let's establish whether we want to form a subcommittee
also-
first.
Do we need to specifically formally form a subcommittee, or can 2 people just volunteer to help Maureen with this?
Yeah.
That we can do that.
I can get together maybe Thursday, Friday.
I could Friday would be better for me. I'd like to be involved with that.
So if we had you 2 and John and Maureen, does that sound good?
That work for you, Maureen?
Yep.
Okay. So let's see. Let's
I don't want to
go.
volunteer Eric, but I think somebody from LPA should be there too.
Yes.
Okay. Eric, can you take care of that, and we'll get you an invite.
Sure, we can have somebody there, whether
Okay.
me or Christina will attend.
Great. Are there any other comments going down?
Just one editorial again. Under the pack, this part that says we have to start the process all over again. I think townspeople might think like, well, all right, we just go with this new renovation, whatever the term Pete used, and like we can turn on the dime or pivot. All of a sudden we just pivot one way, and all of a sudden we have a new committee just working on the renovation. No, we have to start all over again. And then maybe you add on that sentence, this could take several months. I mean, it's not like we use the same group of people. We have to start all over again with the whole, this could take, I don't know how many months. I mean, I think we should say, we're not going to turn on a dime here.
Yeah.
It's going to take months to initiate the second new phase if it gets defeated.
It'll take months to start, and then at least months to come up with the scope, to define what it is that we want for the architect, and then more months to come up with the schematic design and costing. So it'll take significant amount of time.
Yeah, and
it'll take a couple of years.
You can imagine construction inflation even then. So,
and also it would still entail displacing the library. Depending on the scope of the repairs, we may have to incur that whole cost, which we talked about before, of moving the library out, renting space, disrupting everything. I think John had a very good list he gave us at one of our meetings of all the things we'd have to do that cost money.
Okay. I had one other sort of large scale comment. Maureen, you have the timeline at the end, which ends, let's see, it ends with the special town meeting. Do we want to add the hypothetical steps of design and the construction phase?
Sure. What is everybody thinking about that?
Isn't that the same timeline that's on our existing timeline on our website?
Yes, the one that Ed is referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know if it's needed in this as well.
If we do this as handouts, there's no guarantee that people who, as a print handout, there's no guarantee that people will also look at the website.
So this was intended to be just kind of like how we got to where we are now. The other side of it probably could be the timeline
The construction
going
timeline.
forward.
Okay.
And yeah,
It occurred to me just so you're talking, does this have a link to the library webpage, or in particular the building program site on the library? That might ought to go right on the very first page or in the footer or something.
are you talking about this page that's on the screen now, or the whole document?
The whole FAQ.
Yes, so way up at the top. Hang on. This QR code goes to the FAQ page.
Okay.
But I can work in a link to I'll add a link to the building program.
Yeah, maybe put in a footer or something if there's room, just for more information or current information or whatever, and put in the link. Lee, you've got your hand up.
Yes, Maureen sent me, I've forgotten if everybody saw it, but she sent me a list of all the town meeting presentations we had. And I do think it's very important to have that someplace, even though that may not be an answer to a question. But I think it might be like, who decided this? Who said we needed to do this? And even if it isn't a question, I think we need to show how many times it's come before town meeting, the dates. And
I want to show you quickly.
Either as a slide for a presentation or in the frequently asked questions section. Because it's extraordinary. 11 times we've gone to town meeting about this project.
Hang on.
So it isn't that we didn't get a lot of community input. I should say in the positive. We did get a lot of community input by that mechanism anyway.
So can you see this graphic?
No, that slide looks blank.
Oh, were you looking at the slide?
We're seeing the slide right now.
Oh, sorry. Hang on.
Yes, I'm seeing it.
There we go.
Christina created this awesome timeline with that indicates all of the times where we did town meeting updates or votes. And let me see if I can make this a little bigger.
Oh, I see town meeting update. Oh, good. Okay. Town meeting vote. Oh, good. Good.
Is it possible to differentiate the vote a little more from the, and it's just got a yellow outline on it instead of making it blue or something? Not that I want to create more work for you, but I think if you're in the back of the auditorium, you don't see this versus that.
Yeah.
At least I don't.
Change very easily, no problem.
Yeah. That's a great graphic. So
Yeah,
you
it
pretty
is.
much present yearly on an update.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, we only really did one update kind of partway through the wait list.
Yeah,
just to
'cause
let
there's
people
no
know.
change.
Yeah, there was no change. There was nothing to report on, but we didn't want town meeting voters to forget that the project was coming. So there was one update pre-COVID, and then during the 2020 town meetings, we didn't do anything because we were trying to keep town meeting as absolutely short as possible. And so then we did the fall 21. We did an update. I think Bob did that one. And then of course in 2022. So yep.
Do we have anything else to do on the FAQ?
Good picture. Great.
Yeah, very good.
I think anything else on the FAQ will work on.
Okay, and look at it on Friday.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Lee, were you bringing that editorial to the building committee?
Well, this is my assumption right now on that. I felt that I, as someone with a background being on the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, and being on the Building committee, that would be reasonable for me to send just on my own an editorial about this difference between the concern that people have about the process, the precedent setting of the special town meeting. And what we're really, I think the most important thing is the precedent that we could set. And I'd be interested in John's opinion on this, of just saying willy-nilly, a very small group of people at one town meeting after 10 years of work can completely gut a very important project. That has never happened in our town government before. And it's a crazy way to do business. It seems to me that a good argument about that would be, how would contractors and volunteers feel like engaging with the town is kind of like Russia and the United States. I mean, if you can't count on people's government's obligations to commitments they've made over a period of time, why should very important companies who have a lot at risk in taking on projects take one on for a town that doesn't have a good governmental process? So I think the precedent that we should be concerned about is upturning a project so capriciously and what that does to our reputation. So that's why I want to send this. However, I didn't want to send it without you seeing what I had written, in case you felt that, in case you objected to me doing this. I mean, I'm open to your concerns, or if you think I'm misrepresenting something. But it is, clearly from me, and I've stated my, my past service to the town and my concerns. And I don't think people are differentiating in any other format or venue this discrepancy between what precedent are we talking about, because people are really, really up about this precedent of having a special town meeting. So that's why I've done it. So in a way, I'm coming to you for your permission, or blessing to say, Lee, it's yours, send it. I'm not presuming that the building committee wants to send it as a committee. So that's where I am with it.
Go ahead, Maureen.
My opinion on this is that I don't think it's appropriate for the building committee to be discussing it. And since it's not coming from the building committee, and I think if a resident wants to submit something, that's up to them. But I don't think Leah, I think if you decide to submit it, it should not include any information or affiliation with the building committee, including that you're a member of the building committee, because I don't think it should have any appearance of coming from the building committee at all.
Well, that's the kind of feedback I wanted, Maureen. And I think I understand that.
Sean, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I think that, I think, Lee, you should go ahead and do what you feel comfortable with, but I think it's also wrong if she doesn't state that she's a member of this committee, right? Because then you're leaving out pertinent information that obviously is going to come to light on, that the majority of people would know. So I think you can say, hey, former select board, former advisory finance, current member, library building committee. These are just my opinions.
Yeah,
and I can
you're
make that
speaking
more
as an
explicit.
individual.
Yeah, I can make that more explicit, that I'm sending this as an individual.
As a citizen. Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you. And we don't need to discuss it anymore then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maureen, I think I never actually got today's agenda. Have I missed anything?
No, that was all that was on it, but Walter had his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Walter. Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, I just want to mention that the select board has decided to add 3 other articles to this to this town meeting. So obviously, I mean, there was some other use besides the citizens petition that was needed. So if anybody's going to complain about the specific cost of this.
Yeah, well, I would just say that
I'm not adding this to frequently asked questions. I'm just throwing in my 2 cents.
I think certainly the select board used this opportunity, but I don't believe that there would have been a meeting otherwise. And
So we would have waited till the spring not to get that property changed, so we could get the $70,000.
I don't know necessarily that we would have gone through that process. So yeah, unsure. unsure, but I would, yeah, I don't know. I would probably leave it out.
Well, I'm not leaving it in anything. I'm just saying it. I wasn't putting it in any article or newsletter or the newspaper.
Yeah. Oh, I think, Walter, though, your committee's meeting next week, correct? I think that's something that the board would want to be aware of.
We're meeting Monday night.
Monday night.
And Tuesday night is the public hearing on the zoning article.
Walter, should I have anything prepared for Monday night?
I don't believe that's necessary. I don't think they want to sit through presentations at this point. I don't, at least that was my impression. So I can ask again, but I don't think there's, I don't know. The interesting part is the new amount that we're asking for.
Sean,
So
you have your hand up.
let me check in with Mike and see if he feels his opinion before was there really wasn't much new to bother going through the 10-minute presentation kind of thing.
Sean, you had your hand up a minute ago.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think, you know, the change in the motion would be worth it, at least somebody there to explain.
I'm confident we'll have multiple people there. So, Pete, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why exactly we're not discussing a letter to the editor. Lee, are you still looking for feedback on that?
I'd be glad to take it individually if you want to give me feedback, Pete.
I had some concerns that I'd like to discuss. Also had a.
Do you think the committee needs to know your concerns?
Well,
does Maureen?
I think the committee, based on Sean's advice, the committee should not know those concerns as a committee. We can learn about them as individuals if Pete thinks that's appropriate.
That's fine with me.
Has somebody reached out to John Arnold concerning the introductory comments about why there is a town meeting, a second town meeting, and
yes,
and so forth, and he's going to provide that information before we start?
That is correct. I spoke with him at a select board meeting a week or two ago, and he agreed. He was already planning to introduce that topic, and I volunteered that we would write a paragraph, write something for him, and then he could have it and do whatever we wanted with it. So.
Okay.
So, Maureen, we need to make sure that gets on a list for something to get to John well in advance of the town meeting. Any other issues from committee members? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
A second. Okay, Bob?
Petrosella, yes.
Ed Baldwin, yes. Walter?
Leslie, yes.
Sean?
EO, yes.
Pete?
Ken Beck, yes.
Bill?
Monahan, yes.
Lee?
Yes, and are we going to have schedule another meeting?
Oh, Diane, I forgot about that. Yes, we need, I think, schedule one for next Tuesday. Will that work or conflict with any other of the meetings that are pending?
The 6th of December.
Yeah. And that will probably be our last meeting before this STM. So we'll want to review the slide deck. At that point, I think the FAQ should be out, have been distributed. But we'll want to focus on the slide deck. So next Tuesday, 3:30 p.m. on Zoom. That will be December
6th.
December the 6th. Okay. That work for everybody? Any objections to that time?
No.
Very good. Okay. We were in the midst of adjourning. I forget who I had gotten to. I think Lee. I think you would.
That's a Lee.
Yep.
But, okay. So Lee, you said we're voting on whether to adjourn.
Yes. Emery,
Maureen?
yes.
Amy, yes.
And Al?
Gordon, yes.
And Mary?
Johnson, yes.
And I believe that's everyone. Okay, the meeting is adjourned. I'd like to thank everyone for the time at this and many other meetings that we've been devoting to this project, and particularly the members of the public for contributing and paying attention and learning about what's going on. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you next week, if not sooner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.